Nō reira, tēnā koutou, nā iwi o Kanata, koutou ngā iwi taketake. Tēnei te mihi atu mai konei, mai Aotearoa, tō tātou whenua, ka tika kia mihi atu mātou, kia koutou, kia hono hono, kia kotahi ai ngā whakaaro I raru I ngā āhuatanga o te wā. Nō reira, tēnā koutou. And I just introduce myself firstly, with a greeting to you, people, the Indigenous people of Canada. It's correct in our ways to express greetings from here, Aotearoa Maori, to the Indigenous people of Canada. And yeah, so a little bit about myself. I was brought up in a place called Hongaweka, Ngāti Toa, on the side of my mother, and that is Indigenous, Maori land, brought up around my cousins and whānau, and brought up in traditions and reo and language and connection to land. So that's been my upbringing, and it's influenced my work all through my life, and I've done a lot of I've expressed, I suppose, a lot of my my worldview through creativity, from stage and writing and dance, drama, radio, TV, film, and now virtual reality XR media. And for me, it's really exciting. The virtual reality and the 3D type technology is able to express our stories and connect our young people in exciting ways to their own traditions. And so for me, it's like exciting in terms of being able to bridge the gap between maybe the younger generations and the technology and the places that they are viewing things and viewing content and all that sort of stuff, and perhaps be able to show them that there is also a way for them to be able to see themselves and see their own stories, and that's the most important thing. And it's not so much the technology, but it's more how that technology is used to be able to bring our people together and consolidate and strengthen us going into the future. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself and my work. Oh, Whakakitenga is my latest one, by the way. It's a virtual reality, sort of like a dramatic short film based on one of my ancestors. The idea was brought to me I was approached by a university here in Wellington, and they wanted to do something about colonisation, and they had a story. They sort of floated about a Pākehā European discoverer called Captain Cook, who came to Aotearoa in the 1700s, and it was their idea was to do something about colonisation. So I said, well, I'm not really interested in doing a story about Captain Cook, but I'm interested in doing a story about my own people, and something that actually connects and resonates for me and would resonate for my own people, our people. So that's how the conversation started, and then we just started to talk a lot because they were all European Pākehā, and for me to be able to have relationship with others, with other people, with other nationalities, there has to be a decent understanding. So there was quite a bit of groundwork to do in the beginning, so that I could sort of see where they're coming from, because I don't, it's quite a big deal to be entrusting people with our stories if I don't know that these people have the right, intentions. So once we'd done that, gone through that foundational stage, and then we built up some trust and understanding and had a lot of meetings, then I could start to open up and talk about the stories that I would like to tell. I knew straight away the story started to come to me, and it was coming to me more in my dreams and imaginings, and then the foundation of it was there because I'd heard these stories for a long time, but to go into a story that was really based on my ancestor at a particular time in around 1843, I think, post-signing of our Treaty of Waitangi. So I knew the ground, and I knew the backstory. I knew who these people were and the main players. I knew the land, the landscape. I knew where they were living, and I'd heard a lot of the stories from before and listened to the waiata and the whakapapa and the songs and the genealogy and everything else that went with it. So then I just had to imagine what was going to happen. And just before major things happened where our people were driven off the land, our leaders were taken away, some of them imprisoned, and all of the rest of it. And that particular leader who I based that story on was chased by the colonial forces out of our area, and then the land was divided up by the governor, the settler colonists. So there was a lot of foundational things, and the relationship with me and the university and our people in the university was very important. And then from there, it was being able to be trusted to tell the story myself. So, that's a little bit about the story, I suppose. And then, this whole thing of virtual reality was a new thing for me. I'd never made a virtual reality story before, so that was, pretty mind-blowing, really. The freedom of being able to express myself and the different ways that the technology could do things, but then being able to adapt as well in terms of the storytellings. I can tell the story without having to, for example, translate it. Because they were saying to me, it needs to have translations. I says, no, it doesn't need to have translations. It needs to be able to tell itself. We need to be able to feel that story, and everything needs to layer and go and to be aligned with that emotional and physical expression. Because for me, it's not the actual technology. It is the connection to the story that's the most important thing. So availability-wise, at the moment, I think it's doing the it's doing the festival round. So we are not going to be putting on to Oculus Store until after the festival rounds, I understand. And there'll also be a 360-degree version. We are doing a dome version as well. That's about all I know, I think. Once we've gone through festival rounds, then we'll be looking at being able to get it more widely seen. But otherwise, at the moment it's at Imaginative, I think, I understand. And then it's getting submitted to other festivals as well. There is the physical headset challenge of being able to get, people into headsets and stuff like that. I've been taking it to our marae, to other people, to our people, with my own headset, and we've got another workshop coming up. The opportunities that come from that, in terms of government funding and things, are that during this COVID scenario, for example, there was a huge demand for content that could be viewed on virtual reality or 360 video, and the opportunity that's come through government funding agencies have been that, what would you be able to do if this is to happen again, and so we're starting to pitch things towards, okay, we want to get headsets for schools, for example. We want to be able to have a travelling group that can take this around to schools all over the country. So I think with the challenges is there is always opportunity, and we're always looking at what those opportunities can be and being able to see what ways, like for example, with the entry into Imaginative, we got the opportunity here to do another cut, or not a cut, but a tidy up of our short film. So when we did that, we also made sure that we could get it out into 360 video, we could get it into Dome, and then that opens up the scope for our people to be able to see it. So yeah, with our next project, which is coming up, we're doing the same thing. We're going, okay, what parts of this can we break up and use as standalone 360 video? And looking at the opportunity there, because we know that the funders will go, they're not quite sold on virtual reality in some ways, because they're still stuck in old models of getting content out there. But realistically, we don't have lots of headsets and things for our people, and they're expensive. So we too have to look at ways of bridging that gap of accessibility and going, okay, this can be fantastic in virtual reality, a whole different experience, can be taken through schools or available on Oculus or whatever else. At the same time, we can break off some of that, and we can have that as 360 videos standalone. That's the way we are thinking, making sure that we aren't stopped by the challenges, but are always looking to the opportunities that are there, and how we can navigate that to ensure that we are getting these stories that are really important and really are really needed in terms of the type of technology, the type of way that they're being expressed especially for this younger generation, because they're so caught up in the Disney and the whatever else that's out there that are feeding them with this content that I believe is detrimental to our traditional story, and I think can be really distracting and really not, what can I say, not expressing our worldview, which I think in this day and age really needs to be heard. The way that this technology, virtual reality, 360 video, lends towards connection to Maori story, Maori worldview, that's what really excites me. It's because being immersed and then like being totally surrounded has a whole. It brings a whole nother feeling. Like, for example, I took it to our marae at home, and our old people were there, young people all the way down to the young ones. And when I showed it to them, and I could see that it was a whole different thing for them, and it was quite an emotional thing. And for some of them, they came out in tears, and the old people sat around. Like, I had to put chairs there because it was just a little bit too freaky for them to be standing up. So I had to have a swivel chair, and the kids were crawling on the ground where they had it. And the talk that it generated, the connection to the characters, because those characters are very well known. I didn't have to explain anything about who the bird was, for example, because they know who that bird is. They could see the images, and they could see the landscape, and they could have a much deeper connection. And that's how I felt when I was getting firstly introduced to virtual reality. I felt like there's so many possibilities with this. I mean, even simply in education terms, I'd be able to take kids from school or take them on a journey to, to the traditional places of our ancestors. I can have, this is another project that I'm working on, where they don't actually have to travel 500 miles to go to that hill to experience the place where our ancestor sung a particular song to say goodbye to his land because he was getting chased out by another iwi. So, the ability to be able to connect our people and use the technology to reconnect us to our stories is pretty amazing. There's a lot of opportunity there, a lot of scope for exploring those things, and I think it really does lend to Indigenous storytelling from a Maori perspective anyway. I want to run this workshop around the virtual reality because I've got whakakitenga as a stimulant, to stimulate the imagination. So I'm bringing some of the creators of that together, and I'm taking 14 to 16 youngish people from about 16 to 30s, all of those who are interested in really making an effort to get into either filmmaking or storytelling using moving image or virtual reality game making, and then just starting them on a journey. And this is the first workshop, and from next year we're going to run a series of workshops to really train our own people in the different aspects of storytelling, and honing in really on story, but what technologies lend towards that type of storytelling, and then upskilling those iwi members, relations, kids, and adults, and with the view that sometime in the future, maybe in the next 2 years, we'll start our own production companies or company within our own area, so that we can be sharing skills and sharing technology and sharing resources. There is a lot of opportunity for our people in the filmmaking and creation of story through XR games and whatever else, and there is a lot of skill out there. So I think it's just a matter of connecting the dots and making sure that we are telling our own stories, that when I want to, because I have been working in this filmmaking area for quite some time, when I want to go and do some work, I'd like to be able to bring my own people with me. I'd like to be able to train and be alongside my own people, and we don't need to go to school for that. We can teach ourselves, A lot of this stuff I taught myself, the storytelling, the filmmaking, and the rest of it. Taught myself, just came from a base of storytelling, oral storytelling. So yeah, for me it's another opportunity, build on it, and then focus it, and then ensure that our people are coming along the journey as well. And that's pretty much the future. The future is doing it together and being solid in our own, being solid so that we don't have others telling our stories. We don't really want that. We tell our own stories, and we own our stories, and we lead in our own storytelling.